team, how we doing? Try not to do jazz hands. I just wanted to say before I get into the video, thank you so much for the support, and the viewing numbers really are starting to tick up now, and I'm like so over the moon. So if you could share, like, subscribe, it massively helps the channel, because I really do want to build a community. I really do want to make a bit of a difference, as corny as that sounds, because I'm not just pumping out generic content. It's stuff I'm passionate about, and the feedback I've had is giving me some confidence that actually it is helpful and it is useful. So yeah, please do continue to support. I'm so grateful. Thank you very much. But I thought today I'd talk about the value of self-education, because I'm asked quite a lot about this. Not directly about self-education, but actually about how do I know things, how did I achieve certain elements in my career, why did I feel confident taking roles that I maybe not necessarily qualified for on paper. And I think there's probably a misassumption that I was always the smartest guy in the room or had absolutely outstanding grades at school, and it's just not true. And I think at the beginning of my career I probably didn't understand the value of self-education, didn't even know what it was. Very average student at school. I think I got 10 A to C grades, so average.
What a plonker you really are, Rodney!
Just totally average student, pretty capable in terms of sport, which was where I thought my career would lie until the illness that I've talked about in other videos kicked in. Never be a professional sportsman, but I think in my mind it would have been in and around the sporting environment. And then at 16, 17, once I got quite chronically ill and then losing my bowel at 18, 19, and being told kind of the world as I foresaw it was not going to be the case anymore. Absolutely there was a level of intelligence there, but with the moment I found out at college that life was going to look slightly different for me, I don't know what it was, luck, divine intervention, but suddenly I managed to recognise that there was only a couple of things within my sphere of influence that I could control: how hard I worked and how much I understood. I might not have been the most naturally intelligent, and maybe I've disproved that theory as I've got older, but certainly in the academic sense, commercially very bright, but I didn't even know what commercialism was at this age. And I was doing some kind of BTEC and A-level thing at college, and I got one of the highest marks achieved in the country. I think the highest mark, which sounds amazing and it sounds great, and I'm very proud of it. However, it wasn't a hugely academic subject, and what I learned very quickly was if you put the work in, if you work super hard, so when you were set the assignments, if you delivered the work sooner than everyone else, i.e. you didn't wait till the last minute, you got 2 bites at the cherry. So if I handed something in and it was a grade C or a grade B, I'd ask for how do I get to grade A, because I can control how hard I worked and I could understand it. If I didn't know it at the time of submission and you give me a second opportunity, I will go away and learn it and I will resubmit. And that stood me in good stead then as I went into my career. And I think I'd always been brave.
He who dares wins.
Which I think is where probably some of the achievements have come from, that I'm not driven by fear. And obviously there's a level of intelligence and understanding in subject matters that I can pick up, but that's because it's always been underpinned by, as I say, the 2 things that are in your sphere of influence: how hard you work, be the hardest working person in the room.
Let's go! Sorry, moustache.
And self-education. If you don't know, make it your position to know. So many people keep asking questions, and I love that they are. Please keep coming at me with questions, and I'm delighted that we're now at the stage of getting private messages and stuff like that, because that's really what this channel was about. I hope it's watchable. I hope it's content that isn't too heavy, and I'll try and vary the content up. But actually, if I can pass on some wisdom or some insight, this is the kind of stuff I do in consultancy or coaching, or when I do public speaking, in the hints and tips, in that my story may be inspiring, and I hope it is, and that's fantastic, but a lot of hard work and a lot of self-education has been part of that journey. When I've changed industries, which was a video I've done about how you go from kind of pure catering then into kind of stadium management, into events, into esports, and then latterly outside of the consulting work into building Lego models. You'd think that there isn't much that can pass between those, and actually a lot of business practices are very similar. Where the difference comes is the self-educating and making yourself the expert in the subject matter or the industry you're going into. And of course experience buys you that, but that's not the only way. A hunger and a desire for knowledge and self-improvement and self-learning. So whenever I've gone into an industry, I've always quizzed the people that I'm working with. I've always surrounded myself, particularly in esports and in the Lego environment, with AFOLs, adult fans of Lego, or really serious esports players, because that's not me. I recognise the need for the expert in the room, and like through osmosis, I will pick this stuff up, I will ask, and I will ask, and I will ask, because there is no such thing as a stupid question, until the point where I'm generally the ultimate decision maker in these scenarios. It's not right to be the ultimate decision maker if you haven't self-educated enough to be able to call the difference between a good call and a bad call. And so for me, the purpose of this video wasn't to preach or to lecture. There is no secret source. Of course, I'm sure there's a level of intelligence that is inherently there for me that I was lucky enough to have, and there's definitely been luck, and there's definitely been the bravery to take the opportunities. But actually the two things that define success more than anything is how hard you work, because hard work creates opportunity, you just then have to take it. But how you stay, and I use successful in inverted commas, successful or on top of your game, is through continual self-education. Read articles, take opinions. Don't confuse self-education with reading lots of books, going back to college, going to university or to evening school. Self-education is learning the practically applicable stuff that helps you be successful in your work environment, either as an individual or in that industry, or with your people. Just take the time to understand what you're doing and keep learning. You've always got to adapt or die. You have to keep the evolution of yourself as a person, as a manager, as a leader, as a decision maker, as the person in control of your career. As I keep saying it, the only two things you're ever going to be able to control is how hard you work and what you know, because everything else requires somebody else to agree with you or disagree with you, to give you the opportunity or not. So the best way you can give yourself the opportunity to be successful is through continual self-education and working really hard. And that still doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but it certainly stacks the odds in your favour. So as I say, hopefully not too preachy a subject matter, but something I've been asked about quite a lot. How do you do this, or how did you understand that? It's all through persistence, hard work, failures, but getting up and trying again. And every time you try, and every time you ask, and every time you read another thing, another article, another email, immersing yourself in the subject matters in which you want to know about is how you self-educate. And to do that, you need to work hard. And for me, that I thought was a really simple but really effective way to demonstrate how you can stack the odds in your favour in terms of the success in your career. So as always, please like, please subscribe. Really do mean that. I'm so grateful for the support that we've had up to now. But as always, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.